And now, please welcome the No Bull Podcast.
No Bull, no Scotty, no Pippen, no Michael, no Jordan, no Bull. No Bull, yeah, no Bull.
Hi, this is Chuck Swirsky, and you're listening to No Bull AUK, Chicago Bulls podcast.
What's happening, people? Welcome back to another episode of No Bull, a UK Chicago Bulls podcast with me, Jimmy, from UK Chicago Bulls. Well, who would have thought it? After everything. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see who it is. If you're listening on the audio, well, you'll know who it is because it'll be in the description. But there'll be a lot of surprised people out there, I'm sure. Let's just get straight into it. I've got the boys from C-Red UK, Matt and Neill. How are we doing, boys?
Good.
Yeah,
good. Good to be here, Jimmy. Finally get this done.
Yeah. It's something I've been wanting to do for a while. Obviously, we'll address the elephant in the room. There was a lot of issues in the past. Me and Matt have had a few issues in the past, and then I know me and you had some issues as well, Neil. It's no secret. It was all over social media. I don't think, well, none of us come out of it looking great. I'm certainly not proud of how I reacted to it all or my involvement in it. I'm not proud of it at all. If anything, I'm ashamed. And I'm not just saying that because you're sat here. I generally am. I don't think it done either of us any good. It was all very childish, in my opinion. And, you know, we're all I think we're of a similar age anyway. We're certainly not kids. So, that's done. We met up in Paris. And I think your words to me, Matt, were let bygones be bygones. And that kind of summed it up, certainly where I'm coming from as well. And like you boys both said, you know, we've all got something in common, and that's we all love this team, the Chicago Bulls. So I think I can safely say we've officially put all the absolute nonsense to bed. It was great to meet up with you guys in Paris. And it's I don't think many people would be expecting this episode, but I'm glad we're doing it. And hopefully it's the start of, you know, a bit more interaction with us guys on the socials as well, not just for show, but just because, you know, we love this team.
Right.
Yeah. I think this is a big turning point. So yeah, I had to address that.
I agree with you, Jimmy.
Yeah, I had to address that because it's, you know, like you guys said on your podcast, there'll be a lot of surprised people, I think, watching this. And this wasn't about me doing it on my platform. Like I said to you guys, I was happy to come and do it with you guys. It was just for all of us. I think we all agreed it was something that the UK community kind of needed, wanted, who knows, but certainly I felt that I needed it for me personally.
Yeah, and I think it'll be good for everybody involved, yourselves, ourselves, but more importantly, the wider community across the UK that follow the Bulls, the team that we're all in it for, like we said before.
Yeah, exactly that. So yeah, it's officially squashed, everyone out there, and this is an episode that I'm genuinely buzzing for, to be honest. So obviously, Matt and Neil have got their own podcast, C-Red UK podcast. People that know, have watched this or listened to this, know that my podcast listening dropped dramatically about 18 months ago when my job changed. I used to listen to Bulls podcasts like 8 hours a day. And so much so that I've listened to Matt Peck from the Debatables days when he did with Jordan, right through the Locked On, obviously to CHGO now. And I hadn't missed an episode. And I told Matt, like, I've missed so many episodes over the past sort of year to 18 months because I just don't have time to listen to all of the podcasts. So I will hold my hands up and say, until recently, other than a few snippets that I'd seen, I hadn't listened to your podcast. But in preparation for this, I have listened to the last 4 or 5, I think 4. And I actually quite enjoyed it. I'm going to say it. I'm going to put it out there. And I love the topics you covered. And we're going to touch on that in a minute because I was really intrigued on a topic you covered recently last week, which, by the way, was my bad. The guys were supposed to be on last week. I completely forgot it was half term. I had to go and get my kids, all sorts of crazy. So, apologies to Matt and Neil for messing them around because they were supposed to be on last week. And I know they kind of then put a last minute episode together. for theirs just to get some content out, which actually was a really good episode, to be fair. So let's start on it. Like, how did you guys? Let's start with you, Matt, because obviously nothing against you, Neil, but you're the founder, you're the original, the OG, Matt. How did you initially get into basketball, and why the Bulls? I think probably your age will probably say why the Bulls, but why basketball?
Yeah, obviously, 90s Bull, same as most people of our era. It was that thing with Michael Jordan gets you attracted. Obviously, hard back then to keep track with, no internet and no Sky and stuff like that. So I had that interest from a young age. Sort of lost a little bit of interest through my teenage years, as most people tend to do, because you're trying to find women and stuff like that.
Your priorities change.
Yeah, and then I joined the military in 2003, and I started playing a little bit of basketball then for the military and stuff like that. So it got me back interested. I always kept an eye on what the Bulls were doing, but it was hard to do, obviously. And then through the next few years, kind of in and out with the interest, and then got league pass, and yeah, the rest's history, as they say. It's I think the Heat playing game was my 185th straight live game. So for the last 2 years now, it's been a lot more passionate than it has been the previous few years, but life got in the way and stuff like that. So
as it does, yeah, we're going to touch on your live games as well. So were you? How did you initially get into basketball? Was it just purely Michael Jordan and that 90s Bulls that kind of got you into it, or?
Yeah, games consoles as well at the time. Obviously, whatever
NBA
it was
Jam.
yeah, that's the one. And obviously, it was Bulls was everywhere. The logo, it was. You sort of fall in love with it, don't you? And
yeah,
but over time, your interest dwindles and stuff like that a little bit, but still always kept an eye on it. And obviously, these days, it's a lot easier to keep an eye on it. So it's
definitely
with things like League Pass, obviously the internet and stuff like that. So
yeah, without sounding like an old man, the kids don't know how lucky they got it these days, do they?
yeah. Exactly.
What about you, Neil? I guess a similar sort of thing, right?
Yeah, it's similar enough story. I grew up in England, as you can hear from my accent, but I actually live in Ireland. But I lived in England for my entire kind of schooling years. So up until the age of 22, I lived in Milton Keynes and used to play soccer, football, whatever you want to call it, out on the field. And we smashed a few windows. So they came along and told us we weren't allowed to play anymore. And there was this lad that lived a couple of doors down from me, and he used to always shoot at basketball. So we kind of went down to him and said, like, can we join in as soon as we're not allowed to play football anymore? And that's how I kind of started playing the game. But he was a big Lakers fan. So he started trying to show me a few videos and, the old mixtapes.
Yeah.
And he was trying to lean me towards, Magic, and because this was early 90s. But I kept seeing this bald-headed dude doing this amazing stuff. It was just insane. So I said to myself, that's the guy for me. That is the guy for me. Who's he? Turned out to be Michael Jordan. The rest is history. I was a Bulls fan straight away off the bat, much to the unfortunate feelings of my friend who was not happy that I ended up taking the Bulls, especially as they were currently beating the Magic and his Lakers that year. But I got lucky then. When I first moved to Ireland, I still work in aviation, but I used to fly a lot. I don't do so much now. I used to fly to the States all the time. I used to fly to Chicago quite a bit. So I'd get to go to quite a few games back then. I really, really miss it because I don't do it anymore, obviously. But my fandom went from here to here after that. It was the Rose years and Joakim and Taj Gibson and Lil Deng and Kirk Heinrich and all the gang. And it was just amazing. Just absolutely loved it. But I never had the community then that we have now. No. And what I wouldn't have given to have had that back then. Like I used to literally, I'd fly in, get to my hotel, jump in a cab, straight out to the UC, watch the game, drink a beer on my own, get chatting to a few people around in the crowd. Like, as you know, they'll chat away to you. And then I used to literally walk from the UC back down to my hotel downtown. And
wow.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a walk.
It's a hell of a walk, especially at that time of night in the dark. You start off in the crowds and then everybody kind of peters off in their own direction, and you find yourself walking on your own for a good few blocks. But yeah, you do this stuff when you're in love, don't you?
Yeah, you really do. And you've obviously been there quite a few times, obviously with your job, haven't you? So do you know exactly how many times it is you've seen the Bulls live in Chicago? Obviously, I know you were in Paris as well, but
yeah, I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to go back and kind of figure it out, but maybe 20, 30 times, maybe.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Wow,
and I was also really lucky in 1997. I was over for the ring ceremony, which is actually the last ring ceremony because there wasn't one with all the players there in '98. So it was the one where Jordan and Rodman and Pippen and the whole gang were there for the ring ceremony. Yeah. Now I was up in the nosebleeds, but
it doesn't matter.
Still,
it's irrelevant.
there,
there's not a bad seat there. A friend of mine was out there when I was there. He's a Knicks fan, funnily enough, and he was at the Knicks game. And he was up in the nosebleeds, and he sent me a photo down, sort of thing. And there's not those sort of arenas. There's, it's not like football stadiums of the '80s where you've got a pillar in your way or something. There's not a bad seat. I don't think it really matters, to be honest with you, where you're sat. That's insane, man. That is insane. Like you say, to have the community we had now. If only you had it then, huh?
Exactly. But still, listen, it was still a great experience. I'm not going to knock it. And now we have this community that we all.
Yeah. Memories for life.
For sure.
What about you, Matt? Have you been over to Chicago yet or not?
No, I was meant to go a few years ago, when I was first sort of leaving the military.
Oh, okay.
But my wife selfishly got pregnant, so.
Oh man, come on.
The money ended up going elsewhere, shall we say?
That's terrible. And then you're still with her for that?
Yeah. So even more money's gone out now. So it's in the pipeline, but obviously could be a couple of years yet. So
yeah, well, the thing is, it's crippled me. I'm not going to lie. My trip last year crippled me financially. So yeah, but you've got to do it, man. And I mean, we all know how good the people that run that organisation are, especially on the socials and stuff. And I guarantee they'll look after you. It's insane. I don't mean to be patronising when I say that by any means, but I would go back out tomorrow, but my missus keeps reminding me that that's not happening. So I had my trip; it's hers next. So I don't think I'm going to get back out anytime soon, unfortunately. But yeah, it is insane. I mean, Paris was awesome. Was that obviously the first time you've seen the Bulls live then, Matt? Yeah, in Paris.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
How was that like? Because I got emotional when I first saw the team. I actually got emotional, which I'm not even ashamed to admit. Were you a similar sort of thing when you sort of, obviously you got to the arena a lot earlier than I did as well, so I guess you saw them all warming up and stuff beforehand. So
yeah, I mean, like you said, it was just an insane experience, really, because obviously it was the first time me and Neil had met as well.
Of course,
We went down to the CHGO live and met Clem and Easy as well while we were there. I mean, we was in the same hotel as Clem as well.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't realise that.
So,
oh, okay.
So he was like our tour guide while we was there. And yeah, but then the game itself, wasn't a fantastic game by any means. Pistons on it, but the experience of seeing the Bulls there, it was something else. Get a different appreciation of them. Like Demar, for example. He's so much better to watch in person than he is on the TV. So smooth. So everything that he did was just, you think, how have you done that?
Yeah, I do think you get a different perspective watching experience.
It. Yeah, even Marco looks like an all-star when you're watching him in warm-ups.
Hey, Marco was hitting threes like nobody's business during the warm-up. Yeah. And then he just disappears.
You say it was a terrible or not the best game. Okay, it wasn't, but the way the Bulls season went, that could have easily gone the other way. Where the Pistons have a blowout win. So although it wasn't the best game competitively, at least the Bulls were on the right end of that game.
Yeah.
They played well as well. To be fair, do you know
They
what I mean?
did.
You can only play what's in front of you. So,
Yeah.
and I don't know if it was a case of trying to put on a bit of a show with it being obviously in Europe and stuff like that. But it's like me and Neil was saying, one of the better experiences was who was there. Like obviously Magic Johnson was there, Wemby was there, Ben Wallace was there. You know, all the legends that they got on the court and stuff like that. You kind of like thinking, well, I'm in the same arena as Magic Johnson. That doesn't happen to people from England. You know what I mean? It's
No.
that was a sort of an extra part of the experience that made it as well. Do you know what I mean? It was. I know we're nowhere near him, but still, you know, we've been in the same building as Magic Johnson. You know, it's.
Yeah. No, I get that. 100%. Yeah. It's some people. The people that don't get it just think don't get it at all, do they? But the people that get it. I'm 100% with you on that. Yeah. To be in the same build, I get like it if I'm somewhere that someone's been 20 years before. I'm like, oh, someone stood in this very spot. Like I'm in the same building that he was in. This, you know. So yeah, I 100% get that, man, for sure. And none of us got tickets initially for the Paris game.
No.
Which, you know, it's not a shock, is it, the way things are trying to get tickets for an event like that now. And like we touched on earlier, I think you guys got in touch with, I guess, Camille and then Dan and hooked you guys up, similar sort of thing to me. And again, that just goes to show how amazing the people behind the scenes are at the organisation, looking out for the likes of me, you. I think they sorted out Easy and Clem as well, obviously, because we were all sat together. The best organisation in the world. I don't care what anyone says for doing stuff for the community. And whether it's us over the other side of the world or the people in Chicago, they're helping everyone. And they're the unsung heroes, I think.
Yeah. But I mean, when they realised that with what we put into Bulls Nation and the Bulls community, and we weren't going to be able to be there when they were only a stone's throw away, relatively speaking, they were just like, don't worry, we've got you all. We're going to look after you all. And that was it. And it was just brilliant. And then it also gave us the opportunity to actually sit together, which we wouldn't have had that otherwise.
No.
You know. But it was the booking system. I know we had a bit of an episode about it at the time, but the booking system was terrible because I actually got in. I got the code and I got in and I had it in my car. I had great tickets in my car. And then it wouldn't let me enter in my credit card details. And because it wouldn't let me enter in my credit card details, I had to come out and go back in again and lost the tickets.
I remember that because I did actually listen to that. I think you posted a tweet on it with that clip.
I did.
And I was listening to that. So, yeah, I remember you weren't very happy at all. And I don't blame you. I didn't even get that close. I didn't get past the queue, to be honest. I wasted like half a day at work. And thankfully, I got a few guys that covered for me. They were putting a shift in while I was literally just sat there going, come on, stupid phone. It's so many people lost out. And sadly, I mean, as always the case in these sort of things, there was a lot of empty seats because the touts are buying them and then they're not selling them for the extortionate amount that they're asking. And you've got legit fans from all over Europe, all over the world even, missing out. And it sucks. I mean, I understand why London lost it, I think. I don't think they did enough around the event to keep it. You look at the MLB game in London, they've already announced that they're doing something, I think it's in Leicester Square that weekend, a big event to sort of surround the Cubs game in London this month, in a couple of weeks. And there was none of that with the NBA game in London. Not that I'm aware of anyway. When the NFL comes to London, they do a massive thing. They shut off, I think, is it Carnaby Street? It's somewhere in London. They close off the whole street and they have like massive events going on, and they got a stage set up for artists and the cheerleaders and stuff like that. And it's just, with the NBA, they just didn't do. It's like there was no effort at all, which I think they really, really missed out, because it could have been so much. the demand's there, isn't it, in this country? In Europe, I mean, Europe, it's massive, but in this country, it's growing. You see it by the year. It's growing. I think it's the fastest growing sport in the country, I believe. I think I read that somewhere. So, I mean, Paris it's not too bad for us. It's, you know, like you say, it's right. It's just across the water, but it's still not London, is it?
No.
No.
Incidentally, did you ever go to any of the London games, Jimmy?
No. So I got a ticket. My cousin's into his basketball as well. He's the one that got me into it actually many years ago. I got him and his friend a ticket for the Celtics. Who did the Celtics play? Sixers? No, that was yeah, Celtics Sixers. I think the last one I think was the Knicks Wizards, right?
I don't know the last one.
I think the last one was the Knicks v Wizards. So it was the one before that, which would have been 2018, I believe. I think. So I got 2 tickets for my cousin and his friend for the Celtics and Sixers. I'm sure it was a Sixers game, and I actually really wanted to go at the time because I loved Isaiah Thomas. And then of course he left Celtics anyway. But I didn't go purely because I'd never been to an NBA game before, and I wanted my first game to be the Bulls.
Right.
So that's the only reason I didn't actually go in the end.
You didn't make the one against the Jazz then?
No, so I wasn't actually I wasn't following the sport then. So obviously I was following it back in the 90s, hence why I'm a fan, but Bulls fan. But I stopped like probably pretty much when the Bulls fell off a cliff, I guess. And football kind of just took over my life, and it was just all football. I only got back into it. My first year back into it was the 3 Alpha seasons with Jimmy, D Wade, and Rondo. So yeah, I wasn't around for the Jazz game. Were you at the Jazz game then in London?
Yeah,
you were.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I went over for it. It was great. Got to meet BJ Armstrong was out signing. There was a few of the kind of legends that were there, and like Darryl Dawkins and Detlef Schrempf, and I can't remember who else was there. BJ Armstrong was there anyway, so I got a signed picture from him, and Benny the Bull was jumping all around the place as well, doing his thing, and yeah, it was good. It's good. It was down at the Docklands Arena.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Which is now XL, right? London XL.
Couldn't tell you.
I think it's London XL. Yeah. Yeah. No, I wasn't even aware. I didn't know that game took place until I had someone on. I think it was it Chuck Swirsky? I think. Can't remember. I had someone on, and they said that they were in London calling that game, and they mentioned it. But yeah, I wasn't even aware that happened until fairly recently. To be fair.
Yeah.
So yeah, I missed the boat on that one. I guess you weren't into it either. That was when you were into girls, Matt. I guess.
I can't remember now. I think I was probably away somewhere, Falklands, Afghanistan.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So, I mean, while I was out in Afghan, I was alongside obviously the US forces, and when they realised I was a fan, they sort of took me in as one of their own.
Oh, really?
Because they got the games free out there, so obviously I could go watch it with them.
Oh, wow.
Whereas the British forces weren't looked after in that way. So I was like an honorary American while I was there. There was a couple from Chicago as well.
So you were out there watching the Bulls games?
Yeah, I think it was D Rose's second season. When I was watching them out there. So I think he was just coming back from an injury.
Wow.
And I kept going out of the camp and stuff like that on convoys and stuff like that, and I'd maybe missed 3 games whilst I was out. So as soon as I got back, they were like, "Oh, they did this, they did that. They won this game," and it was like, "Oh, sweet." So they looked after me out there, which kind of got my interest back a little bit more as well at that time. Not a lot to focus on when you're in Afghan, put it that way. So having the Bulls to focus on definitely helped.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, well, that's quite a cool story, to be fair. Yeah,
some of them could play as well.
Oh, really?
But they were 6-foot monsters. Whereas, well, you've met me, I'm not. So I didn't do very well if I ever played against them. Put it that way.
But you did say earlier that you did play a bit. So were you ever like in a team or anything like that, or was it just purely for like fun?
Um, when I first joined up, it was part of the where I was based. It was their team, like the camps team, and you'd
Oh,
go around
okay.
playing in other camps. But it was hard to get the time to do it, even though the forces said, "Yeah, go play sport, go play sport." He was like, "Right, I want to go play sport." And it's like, "But you can't because you've got your job to do." So
Mm,
that's another reason why I ended up dropping out, and I was never the most skilled, put it that way. And I was just a bit of a terrier, just running around chasing the ball more than anything. But it worked, got me fit.
yeah, exactly that. As long as you're enjoying it, that's all that matters. I'm absolutely useless. I played a bit of school. I was always one of those kids at school that always thought they were better than they actually were. And yeah, I'm happy to admit now I am useless. I was useless back then, and I'm probably even worse now. I actually went to school with Craig Hughes, the guy that owns Chainnet Apparel.
All right.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, I went to school with him, and he was pretty good. And his brother, oh, I forgot his brother's name. His brother was a bit older, and he was awesome as well. And Craig's actually coaching now, which is pretty cool. He's done all his coaching badges and stuff, so he carried it on. Whereas he was up here and went a bit higher. I was down here and somehow managed to get a bit lower. But yeah, I suck bad, which is painful to say that about a sport that you absolutely love. I was with a few of the guys from work, and they were like, "Bring a basketball in tomorrow. We'll go to the park like after work, and we'll throw up some shots." And I was like, "Oh, have you played before?" They were like, "No, we're rubbish." I was like, "Oh yeah, all right, then we'll do that." And yeah, I mean, I only just beat them, and when they say they were terrible, and in fact, I won one game. I think one of the other guys, there was three of us. One of the other guys won the other game. So yeah, yeah, they were just laughing at me because I do all this and I can't really shoot to save my life. So it's quite comical for them, to be fair.
Yeah. Well, I play against my 10-year-old son now, and I'm awesome.
You can't guard me.
He don't get anything in because I just block it, swat it all away.
No participation medals there.
No,
Teach them young. What about
yeah,
you? What about you, Neil? Did you ever play a bit or?
Yeah, I dabbled a bit. All right. I played in Milton Keynes. I got coaxed into playing again last year, going back playing for the senior men's team here
Oh, okay.
in Clare. So I play for the Clare Comets. Shout out to the boys here in Ennis where I live. I also am involved in the coaching. I coach the All Stars, which is like the all inclusive team. So like special needs and stuff. And
Oh,
I
wow.
also I was involved in coaching the girls last season, girls under 12s, but I think I'm going to be getting the under 16 boys this year.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
So yeah, I love it. I love it. I really love coaching the All Stars. It's just the most incredible feeling. Dealing with kids of all ages and all abilities, and they just get so into it, and they're so thankful to be just a part of it. It's great fun. It's really good, really good to be part of.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Respect for
Yeah, I'm
that.
telling you.
That's brilliant.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely
I can't
brilliant.
tell you how much it means to be part of that, bro. It's just awesome.
Yeah, I can imagine, man. That's really cool. Fair play, fair play. Yeah, wow. Uh, yeah, you've obviously got the mind for it. I haven't got the basketball mind. I never claim to. I watch as a fan. I'm passionate as hell, but actually, when it comes to breaking things down, I lose myself. To be honest with you, I would love to do some sort of a coaching course, not to go out and coach, just to understand the sort of the deeper side of the game a bit more. Because as much as I love the game, there's still I think I know what I'm watching, and then I'll watch someone do a breakdown video and go, "Oh wow, okay, I didn't even wasn't aware that was actually even happening away from the ball, sort of thing." So, yeah, I never claim to be the expert when it actually comes to plays and stuff like that. Although sometimes when I'm live tweeting, I might think I know better than Billy Donovan. Maybe I do. I certainly think I could draw up some better plays coming out of timeouts than he sometimes does, but that's another story. But listen, I got to shout you guys out because you touched on it earlier, Matt. Like you've watched how many live games in a row is it now?
The playing game that we lost was 185.
185 games. I managed 10, and my missus, when I got up for work that morning, looked at me and said, "You need some sleep." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "If you looked in the mirror," and I was like see-through. I was like transparent. My eyes were like this, and that was 10 games in a row. I wish I didn't need my sleep, but apparently I do. I watch every game, just not live. I have to get up. I go to bed early, get up a bit earlier, and watch it before I go to work without all the breaks and stuff. I can watch it in an hour and a half instead of 2.5 hours. So to do that is quite incredible. And even I don't want to touch on it again, but I don't want to dwell on it. But even when we weren't seeing eye to eye, the one thing I always said was fair play for getting up for every game. And I remember being in Chicago and I met up with Matt and Big Dave and stuff, and I think that one of them said something, and I was like, "Oh yeah, well, and I was like, but even then I said, "Do you know what? Whatever else has happened, you have to respect that they get up and watch every game live, because that's insane to me." And I know there's a few other people around Europe that do it as well. But what is wrong with you? Why don't you need sleep?
I'll let you take that, Matt.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, like Neil's there for most of them as well, and obviously where we started on Facebook with the group and everything, we do the live threads, so it's kind of like you're not watching it on your own.
Yeah.
So you got somebody there, you kind of watching it, and that definitely helped. I mean, it come about because I'd always watch the games, but not necessarily live. Like a couple of years before and etc. But then I changed jobs, and yeah, I still need the sleep. But I mean, I've always been good at getting split sleep, so I can go to sleep at like 9 o'clock and be up for 1 o'clock, watch the game, get another hour, and then go to work and do a 15-hour day at work, which the back-to-backs are a killer. I know that much.
Especially the West Coast.
Yeah. Well, I actually prefer the West Coast ones though, because I get a full night's sleep before getting up at 3 o'clock. So, but yeah, I mean, I've always struggled sleeping anyway, so I might as well get up and watch the games. That's how I look at it. I think the last game I missed was a summer league game, because it was on at like 1 o'clock, and I'd had a long day and couldn't be bothered to get up really.
I think you can be forgiven for missing a summer league game, to be fair.
Yeah, but then in saying that, I'm looking forward to this summer league, just to have something to watch again. Really, I mean, what do we have? Usually 5 games. It's a week's worth of getting up at 1 o'clock or whatever it happens to be. Is looking forward to summer league. Put it that way, which I don't think many people would say.
No, I think that's just withdrawal symptoms, though, isn't it? It's basketball. Yeah. You just want to see basketball, and it feels like forever since we've seen a Bulls game, and yet the season's not even finished yet.
Yeah. I mean, that Heat game, we finished at about 3 o'clock, I think, and it took me a good hour and a half to get off the city because I was numb, and like me and Neil were sort of chatting, messaging and stuff like that, and I know Neil was the same, and it was just like, it was more so, what am I going to do now? That's it for 6 months now. What am I going to do? And obviously trying to do the podcasts and stuff like that, it's hard when you haven't got the content there. It's and that was going through my mind, and yeah, I think I went to bed for about an hour. I got up and felt crap for a day. So, well, then we went on with his that night as well, which
of course
we weren't really in the mood for it because obviously everything that had gone on and been tired and stuff like that, but kind of give us the little bit of the boost that we needed as well to obviously crack on and do what we need to do basically. So
he's a pretty energetic guy as well, isn't he, Hayes?
Oh, he is.
He is, but he's quite chill as well. So
he's got an awesome vibe.
Oh, he
Yeah.
has. He's a real top bloke. He really is, and he really knows his stuff inside out, and just a real great guy to chat to.
Yeah, he works his butt off as well, doing
Oh yeah,
like multiple podcasts and stuff.
And confuses himself from time to time.
Yeah.
The Bears send off a few times instead of the Bulls.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A few times where he's saying that he's listening to Bears Central and stuff like that, which understandable when you're putting out 4 episodes a day or whatever he's doing.
yeah.
Yeah, it's insane. What about you, Neil? Like, why don't you sleep, man? What's wrong with you? Like,
No, it's a fair question. It's a question my wife has asked me for a very long time. But I mean, if she was sitting here now, she'd tell you, Bulls or no Bulls, I don't sleep.
really?
I'm just not a sleeper. I'm really not. Never have been. I mean, a little bit more as I'm kind of hitting middle age. I sleep a little bit more, and now by a little bit more, I'm talking maybe 4 or 5 hours a night, and that's it. So my job as well, I work a lot of nights. So like Matt said, you know, I'm there for most of the games. The ones I miss, it's not because I'm in the bed sleeping. It's because I'm working. Do you know?
Wow.
You know, it's never a case of, oh, I'm in bed, that's why I didn't watch a game. It's just a case of I'm too busy at work, or I'm flying to the Middle East or something like that. But this season, I think I was very lucky because I missed 2 halves of a game, as like a first half of one game and the back half of another game, and that was it. I was in the hold of an aircraft watching the game while I was loading bags down in Qatar. yeah. Which is cool because I work with the US military.
Right.
So, you know, they'd be like, oh, what game are you watching? What game are you watching? You're a Bulls fan? And so you get chatting to them, and it's kind of cool too. So you get that bit of interaction that you wouldn't tend to get if you were sitting in the pub in Ireland watching the game. You know what I mean?
No.
So, yeah, no, it works for me that I don't sleep. I'll sleep when I'm dead, I guess.
I have that attitude before getting up, and then I'm one of these. I can't stay up. If I try and stay up for a 1 o'clock game, I'm not making the second quarter. So I have to go to sleep at like 8 or 9 o'clock, then get up, then go back to sleep afterwards, and then get up about 6:30 generally for work. And when I get up at 6:30, because I've had that broken sort of 3 hours, 3.5 sometimes, by the time the game's you've wound down, whether it's been a win and you're buzzing or a defeat and you're absolutely deflated, I then wake up at 6:30 and feel like I've been out on the beer until about 4 o'clock in the morning and got up, and I literally feel hungover. It's horrendous. Sometimes I get up and I'm a bit delirious, and I go into work and I'm like buzzing and I'm the absolute joker, and then by about 11 o'clock I kind of just hit a brick wall, and then I'm good for nothing for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
I used to say what you just said then, Matt. I used to prefer the West Coast games because you get up at 3 o'clock and then you watch the game and then your day starts. And I remember literally saying that to someone, and the very next West Coast game, I did exactly that. I got up at 3, watched it, got to work, and I got to work about 15 minutes early. So I was sat outside and I fell asleep in the van. And yeah, woke up about half hour later and ended up late for work. And then I decided that the West Coast games weren't actually that much better at all.
I start work at 5 o'clock most mornings, so I'm used to being up early, and I prefer the 2 o'clock tips if we ever get them, because it gives me that little bit longer to finish watching the game, and then I literally roll out of bed and start work. That's it. Because as you can see, I'm in my truck now.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm lucky in that sense that when I roll out of bed, I start work, which definitely helps. It's harder on a weekend getting up because I'm at home, got the kids there, the missus is there, stuff like that. But
how was your missus about you getting up in the middle of the night for the games?
she's none the wiser half of the time. She's snoring her head off. So
okay.
And she can sleep through anything anyway. So yeah, she doesn't even notice I'm out of the bed half the time, I don't think.
Is it the same sort of thing for you, Neil? I guess where you work nights, I guess, so she's used to it.
She's used to me coming and going all hours of the night and day, so she doesn't even wake up. She just rolls over and goes to sleep and doesn't even bat an eyelid when I'd be getting in and out of the bed. So, you know, she wouldn't even notice if I was gone.
So I either have to sleep in my boys' bed if we've not got the kids, or if we've got the kids on the sofa. But to be fair, if we've got the kids, I generally don't get up unless it's a really important game. I don't get up because I I only have my kids every other weekend and half the holidays, so my time with them is too precious for me to be tired. So what I generally do if I got the kids is I get up with them, and then we'll put that on at breakfast, and my boy will quite often watch it with me while my girl's watching. I don't know, whatever it is she's watching on telly. Stitch or something. I don't know, whatever she's watching at the time. And sometimes she finds herself watching it and enjoying it as well. She actually watched the Chicago Sky with me once, and she was fascinated because girls were playing basketball, which was pretty awesome. So yeah, maybe I'll get her. I actually recently my boys got all the jerseys and the shorts and the hoodies and stuff. And my girl is very much a princess, a girly girl, but it was her birthday last month, and I got her a Chicago Bulls jumper and matching leggings, which has got like 3 Bulls logos up the leg. And I thought, there's no way she's going to want it, let alone wear it. And to be fair, she loves it, and she's worn it quite a bit, so I'm buzzing.
Yeah, start them young for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I think they're both going to be taller than me, so they might actually be able to play. My boy's pretty good as it is, but yeah, I think he's probably better than me already, to be fair. So. Yeah, it's tough, man. Juggling family life and stupid o'clock basketball. It's not easy.
So we both say, and I think we actually did an episode on it. We don't actually like UK friendly tip times.
I saw you tweet about that.
Yeah,
too many distractions.
Yeah,
fact.
You know, that 6:30 Pistons tip on the last game of the season was just, yeah, that was horrible. You know, it was my birthday on that day as well, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I had all family round and stuff like that, and yeah, so it was just like, just let me watch the game. You know, the missus was saying, "Oh, come on, we'll go out for tea and stuff like that." It's like, no, you know, I'm not getting up for 180 odd whatever games it was at 1 o'clock in the morning to miss a game that's at 6:30 when I can actually sit down and watch it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not a fan of UK friendly tips. 11 o'clock tips, yeah, no good for me because I can't get any sleep before and I struggle to sleep after then. So, yeah.
Yeah, the 11 o'clock ones I find tough because I will last the first half and then I can feel myself nodding because, like you say, there's not enough time to really go to bed before. It's a bit pointless. I get what you're saying about the tips in the middle of the night. It's as hard as it is for me getting up. Obviously, not for you guys so much, but it's something. This might sound weird to a lot of people, but getting up in the middle of the night and knowing that there's no distractions around you, everywhere is dead quiet, and it's just you and the telly and your phone, with whether you're on your Facebook group or Twitter or whatever you're on. I get that. It's quite like there's nothing like watching a live game, and like you say, to have the distractions around you, you're not then fully committing to the community as well, I guess, because there's just so much going on, right? Especially if you've got kids and stuff. So yeah, I get, as crazy as it sounds, I absolutely get what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, to me, being up at 1 o'clock in the morning for what is it, 3 hours, it's a switch off from real life. I'm just focusing on obviously basketball and Bulls and stuff like that. And then the game finishes and it's like, right, you need to get back to real life now. And it's, you know, obviously real life tends to suck at times, doesn't it? With the way the countries are and stuff like that. It's like, especially my job, because I drive down to London a lot of the time. And as Neil knows, I can't stand London. So
I heard that on a recent pod.
Yeah, trying to drive.
Gets the odd mention.
Trying to drive a 40-foot truck around London with flammable liquid on behind you is not a fun experience. So,
oh, I didn't realise that was what you. I knew you were a truck driver, obviously. I didn't know it was fuel and stuff.
Yeah, so it's it's not fun, not around London. So that distraction, although I could probably do with a sleep, the distraction is more than needed.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think me and you touched when we were sending to each other on the DMs a while back. You kind of said that running this C Red UK account has sort of helps you in a lot of ways, and I said I absolutely get it. It takes your mind off a lot of things that some things like, happening in your life that you try not to think about. It's an awesome distraction from that, and it's part of the reason I set up my account is because of that as well. So yeah, I 100% get that, man. And my missus knows as well, and I'm constantly on my phone and stuff, and she's good as gold about it. And I sort of said the same thing to her. It's just keeping my mind off of things, you know. And yeah, she gets it, thankfully. So yeah, I 100% get where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, and then as we find out, sometimes it goes a little bit too far as a distraction. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It does. It can do.
yeah, it's like I say, we're over all that now, and
It's done, man. I'm not proud of it. I don't think you guys are. And listen, it was. I'm glad that we managed to sort of touch base in Paris. I felt that that was a big step going forward. And yeah, doing this now as well. I feel like that this is, that's over now, and we move on. We're not kids, like I said. We're all adults, and we all love this team. So
Right.
unfortunately,
Exactly.
as
Unfortunately.
tough as it is at times, yeah.
Yeah, man. Sometimes you just wish you'd picked another team, but in the '90s it was great. It's been quite barren, hasn't it?
It is, but do you know, there's not another team you would like
Nah.
when people have heard this story, but when I got back into the basketball, when I did, I kind of felt like I had a free run of teams because it had been so long since I'd actually watched it, and I was so much younger back then. And I was like, right, I'm just going to watch all the teams and see which one like I feel like I want to watch. And initially I was like, oh, Brooklyn Nets, because it's quite a popular team fashion wise, isn't it? You had the Jay-Z link, etc. And they got some pretty cool stuff. And so I was like watching Brooklyn Nets, didn't really feel anything. I watched a couple of other teams, didn't really feel anything. And I watched the Bulls, and it was like it was so bizarre. It was like my childhood had sort of all come back to me. The jerseys were exactly the same as they were back then, and just everything. And I was like, oh my god, this is still my team. There's nothing like, even though I didn't want it to be, this is like still the team. It's just there, isn't it? And
Mhm.
as much as it sucks on court, it's an awesome franchise to follow, the community wise.
Yeah, it really is. And I think we've said this before on our podcast too, haven't we, Matt? It's just something about it, about the community, about the team, about the logo, the music, the heritage, the legacy, the history. It just gets into your veins. It gets into your soul. And once you're in, you're in. You can't get out. And not that I'm saying I want to, but it does. It just becomes a part of it.
Yeah, there's not a better logo in sports, in my opinion.
No, even if it looks like a robot reading the Bible upside down.
Don't, because I get this from like Elliot from Hooping and Looting all the time, and it's painful because he's absolutely right. It does look like that, and sometimes when I'm doing a graphic or something, I've accidentally flipped the logo, and I'm like, no, get it back, because that's all you can see now.
Yeah. I get messages from people every now and then, kind of with it upside down. Something. Oh, did you know? Yeah, I knew that. I have it on my arm, tattooed. Every time I look down, it's upside down. I get it.
Oh, that's brilliant! I didn't realize you had a tattoo. That's brilliant. Yeah. Oh, that's class. You have to look down upside down. Brilliant.
Yeah, so I see it upside down all the time. Yeah.
Brilliant. Matt, obviously you got that jersey in the background, the Zach LaVine socks jersey, which was a promo one.
yeah,
You got an awesome package from the Bulls last month, I think it was.
yeah,
Let's talk about it, because you had some. I think that hat that you're wearing was one of the things as well, right?
yeah. It is. Yeah, it's actually the second package I've got from them,
Oh wow.
and it's Camille that's obviously sorts them
Yeah.
out. And it's because the official title is Twitter Chicago Bulls Twitter community moderator. The
Oh, okay.
communities that I've set up because Melissa,
Yeah.
she sort of, I don't know how it all come about, but I was talking to Camille. I'd seen another post and seen that he was interested in international fans and stuff like that. So I was already talking to him, and then Melissa sort of said, well, why don't we have an international moderator that's kind of awake while we're asleep, sort of thing, to obviously moderate the tweets that were going in the community.
Yeah.
If you speak to Camille, the work what they're doing is they're ahead of every other NBA team as well in terms of
Massively.
the socials are and stuff like that. So obviously they wanted to stop the bots going in it, stop any tweets that weren't Bulls related or crossed the line sort of thing. But basically that's all it is stopping that going on. And obviously, so Melissa had kind of said, "Oh, why didn't you ask Matt to do it?" And kind of went from that. And yeah, it's weird because I know like Easy got it as well.
Yes.
And I think his work on Discord maybe.
Right. I know Derek got it from his Discord because he's the Discord guy as well, isn't he? So
Yeah. And they actually invited me to the draft party what they had last year.
no way.
Yeah, which you've probably seen it all over Twitter when like Derek and Melissa and all that were going to it.
Yeah.
And I just said, there's a position there, but it's I can't fly to Chicago just for that. Do you know what I mean? Which I was gutted about. And yeah, so because of the work that we do as moderators and stuff like that, that's why they send the parcels out. And like I say, there's 5 or 6 hats, I think it was, the BMO hats this year's series. Obviously the jersey, fanny pack, bum bag, whatever you want to call it. I know something you'd appreciate, a Caruso headband with the Bulls logo on.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
And my son's claimed that. And yeah, it's just like you say, the people behind the scenes are amazing. Like to say, sorted the tickets out for Paris as well. Because Camille said to me, go through the process of trying to get the tickets, which we did. And if you're unsuccessful, we have got tickets reserved for moderators and international creators and stuff like that. And we didn't actually know we were getting them until not long before Christmas. So that's how long they've got to wait before they can actually pass the information on as well. And it was like, we were just, we're not going. And then Camille just messaged me out of the blue and he said, yeah, your tickets are there,
Wow.
Yeah, it's for not doing a lot, shall we say, because, what can you do? It's the way they appreciate what you do is, like I say, the parcels I've got, the tickets, we got something sent on Twitter the other week about kind of technically classed as an employee for Bulls, so you can set like a mental health thing up for Bulls employees, staff, and all that sort of stuff. And even me from the UK could ring the number on it to get help for mental health and stuff like that.
Oh wow.
And that got sent out to everybody who's a moderator or creator, or that's linked with them.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's like I say, for not doing a lot of work, the rewards are pretty impressive.
The thing is, you say not doing a lot of work, but everyone kept saying to me, "Oh, you deserve this, you deserve that," and I'm like, "What? Why?" And I was sort of saying the same to you. Like, I'm just on my phone, like tweeting or whatever. But you're taking time. You're doing graphics. You're doing, your podcast is at least once a week, if not twice. Some weeks, and you're getting up. You're watching every game. You're on the socials. You're messaging around the community, whether it be Twitter, whether it be Facebook. And people have said this to me, and I don't think I do as much as you guys do, but I think it's a case of it doesn't feel like you're doing much because it's something you love doing, right? And the famous saying is, find a job that you love and you'll never work a day in your life, right? And although it's not a job, we don't get paid for what we do, I kind of feel that it's a similar sort of thing. It never feels like, certainly I don't want to speak for you guys, I guess you feel the same as from what you just said, but you never feel like it's hard work doing it.
No, it's a labour of love.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely. And Matt puts more into it and has been for a little bit longer than me. I just jumped on the bandwagon because I thought I was going to get free stuff too, but I haven't gotten anything. But No, you know, obviously we were kindred spirits.
Cough, Camille, cough.
You know, obviously we were kindred spirits in regards to we're both crazy enough to get up for as many games as we possibly can live, and it was kind of when I joined the Facebook group, and Matt started the live threads. We found that sometimes it was just him and me on the live threads, knocking back and forth during the game, and you know, we started realizing, well, we think a lot of similar ways, and a lot of the now not everything that we say is in agreement. You know, we do have our differing thoughts sometimes, but for the most part, a lot of the time we think a lot of the same way about the team, and we have a fantasy league group as well that Matt set up, and that's got a life and a heartbeat all of its own. So a shout out to all the boys in that group as well. That group gets crazy, but in that as well, we have a lot of banter going back and forth as well, and it's turned into its own little mini community as well within the greater Bulls Nation, and it's just great, and I love being a part of it, and I thank Matt and yourself and everybody else that creates for providing a platform that people can be involved in, no matter how small or how much.
Yeah, it's about it's quite ironic say us having this, it's about bringing people together, isn't it?
And well, yeah, I mean, it took a bit of time, but it worked, right?
We got there in the end. But probably similar thing to you. Like, I've met people on Twitter, and you know, my friends and my other half think I'm crazy when I say this, but I've met people on social media that I've never even met in real life. Like, I call legitimate friends because I chat to them so regularly. And there's some people that I may have only met once or twice that I consider really good friends. And I know that sounds crazy, but that's just what this community is all about, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, as you know, from when I first started, I didn't do social media really. So I've had to kind of learn what happens on social media. Bit of a dinosaur as such with it and stuff like that. And yeah, like you say, you end up, you know, I speak to Neil now more than I speak to anybody probably, which I know annoys my wife quite a bit.
But, yeah, mine too.
You know, and through obviously when I joined the military and I moved away from home, obviously I lost a lot of my friends from back home, just drift apart. So now, obviously, lights going off. 2 seconds. Yeah. So now, obviously, through all this, there's people that I speak to on a daily basis that, like you say, you consider friends because you're speaking to them on a daily basis, and yeah, it wouldn't have been possible without Bulls, if that makes sense, because I find with Twitter, you kind of, as a person on Twitter, you're in a crowd shouting at another crowd in the hope that you get heard.
Yeah.
And you're all shouting the same thing. And it's like, but by putting a brand on it, whatever you want to call it, people start paying a bit more attention to it. And then they start finding out the personal side of it, obviously, like me, Neil, stuff like that. You know, and everybody knows that it's me that runs the social side of it. You know, so the interactions now with people like Troy and stuff like that, you know, you're speaking to people in Australia
It's
about,
crazy.
you know, and I think within a few weeks we had Troy on, who's obviously in the future, and then we had Samadi on, who's in the past, and it's like, but you're speaking about the same thing, and it's all down to social media. Do you know what I mean? And as much as I still hate social media, I saw a lot going around on Twitter last night that I was just like,
yeah. Shout out to Ramina and Melissa and wow, everyone. That was a bit. It was sad to see. But you know, yeah, they know they've got our support and everyone's support, and you know, I don't think they done anything wrong. I don't think they embarrassed themselves, to be honest, either with their replies and stuff. So yeah, it's social media is awesome, but the dark side of it is dark, and it's not nice, and it's nice to have a tweet go viral, but for every tweet that goes viral, for every 10 messages of support, you're probably getting 3 or 4 hate messages, and it's tough. You just got to, it's about not taking it personal. And I can't help myself. Everyone says you should just ignore the haters. I can't help myself. I'm too passionate. I should switch my phone off, forget about it, and go, okay, I don't need to reply to that. Instead, I just reply instantly, which is a lot of my faults from our past as well, to be fair. But I had I had a tweet recently about the Scottie Pippen thing, and it ended up with like 6.2 million views or something stupid. And I had like LeBron James fans in my DMs, basically claiming MJ was a fraud, this, that, and whatever. And instead of just like ignoring them, I just replying to them with like graphics of MJ's achievements and stuff. And I ended up getting blocked by a lot of them, which was quite funny because they were the ones that reached out to me. So kind of felt like a bit of a win, to be honest. But that's the petty side of me coming out.
But there's a lot of fun to be had with that too, right? You know, once it never gets nasty, you can just have a bit of playful fun and banter with people, and sometimes you can end up coming out the other side with them anyway.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with it, to be fair, and it wasn't personal. He didn't throw it. The people didn't throw any shade at me personally, and I certainly didn't throw any back. So I had a lot of fun. I think they didn't. They got fed up in the end. But you saying that, I had a backwards and forwards with a guy. Oh gosh, I've forgotten his name already. Apologise. He was talking about. I was saying about the Miami Heat playing game, and basically Billy Donovan was one of my Heat at the moment tweets. Surely he has to go after that. And I to this day can't understand why he took Kobe White out, who was red hot, and brought in Patrick Beverley, who is, let's be honest, we know what Patrick Beverley is. And this guy was like, well, why? That's Billy's call. He's made that because of this, etc. I don't want to go into all the details, but we kind of had a bit of a back and forth. And I kind of said to him, look, I don't claim to know basketball like a lot of people do, but this is just my view as a fan. And it feels quite obvious, right? Why would you take someone out who's red hot and bring someone in who doesn't score for you? And he kind of stood his ground, I stood my ground, and we went backwards and forwards a bit. And then it turns out he was actually a coach for the GB under, I don't know, like school age GB team. And I had no idea because I just got into it passionately with him. And again, it wasn't nothing nasty, it wasn't nothing personal. And he ended up replying saying, well, when you're free, come down to a game. You can sit beside me and I will talk you through why I make decisions. And I actually replied with, I would actually really enjoy that because I would learn a hell of a lot from someone who coaches a GB team, right? Like I said to you earlier, I would love to do that just to be a bit more knowledgeable about the game because I hold my hands up. I'm not the most knowledgeable about the game. And it hasn't actually come to anything yet, but maybe it will eventually. And that's exactly what you just said. Sometimes a debate can start off.
You should definitely follow that up.
I want to, yeah.
Oh,
but I don't know if he was being sarcastic. I don't know if he was being sarcastic, but I would love to do it, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I would legit. I think I would learn a lot from it. But yeah. Guys, we touched on your podcast earlier, and one of your recent episodes, you did I'll let you explain it, the teams and the rules behind these teams.
Okay, so basically, when it comes to the off season, you have to find a bit of stocking filler. And what we done last off season was we done a little segment of Matt versus Neil. We kind of did like drafts and a few different games and stuff, and then we put it out into the socials for people to vote who had the winning draft out of me or Matt. And so we said we'd bring it back this season. So the first one we did there was a couple of weeks ago now, I think it was, and it was basically you have to draft a team, a starting 5 of non-Bulls players. And each player had to be from a different era. So 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever, whichever decade you go for. And then you can have a wild card 6-man, so they can be any era, and then a coach, and the coach can be anything as well. But the main provision is they have to be from separate eras and no player that's ever cashed a Bulls check.
There we go. So could never have played for Bulls, current or past.
Exactly.
So, Matt, your team... in fact, we'll start with you, Neil, because you had the first pick as well. You did a snake draft.
Yes.
So you picked Kobe Bryant at shooting guard with the first pick.
Who else?
From the 2000s. And Matt, you were absolutely fuming because I know you wanted Kobe as well. Second pick, Matt took Allen Iverson, also from the 2000s. I know he's one of your probably your favorite non-ball, right, of all time.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
And then Matt, you had the third pick. You picked Giannis from Currents at power forward. Neil then took Magic Johnson from the 80s at point guard with the fourth pick. And then you picked the coach at number 5, which was
Pop.
Greg Popovich. Matt, you were absolutely fuming again.
Yeah.
Then you got your sixth pick really took me by surprise. I know it took Neil by surprise as well. Can you remember who that was?
Reggie Miller.
Yeah.
Yeah, I panicked. I've not had time to do as much prep as I wanted, and because he took Kobe, I was like, I don't know what to do now. So yeah, that was purely a panic pick, and I don't think it worked.
No, Reggie Miller with the sixth from the 90s, of course, and Nikola Jokic. You wanted Shaq, but it didn't work with the eras. And so you took Jokic for the 2010s. I'm doing this in a terrible order. I'm doing it in the draft order, but number 8, Neil, you took Penny Hardaway from the 90s, of course, at shooting forward, and you took your 6th man with the 9th pick, which was Steph Curry. I love that pick, to be fair. Where are we? 10th, Matt, you took Larry Bird from the 80s. Yeah, you definitely can't argue with that. And the 6th man, LeBron James. Very, very brave from a Bulls fan to take LeBron James at 11. But I'll go into that a bit more in a minute. 12th, Neil, you took Dirk at power forward, and the 13th, you took Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at center. Then Matt took Coach Pat Riley with the 14th pick. Both awesome teams. So Matt ended up with Allen Iverson, Reggie Miller, Larry Bird, Giannis, Nikola Jokic, 6th man LeBron James, and Pat Riley. That's a pretty awesome team. The Reggie Miller one did throw me, I'm not going to lie. I get you were under a bit of pressure. But listen, he's an awesome player. Let's not pretend he wasn't. And Neil, you ended up with Magic Johnson, Kobe Bryant, Penny Hardaway, Dirk Nowitzki, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, 6th man was Steph Curry, and your coach was Greg Popovich. So I was a bit late to vote because I only listened to this podcast a couple of days ago. I was quite surprised. So Neil won, but only by 53%. And no disrespect, but I think I'm taking Neil's team. I don't know. You got Giannis, you got Jokic, you got LeBron James. It's not actually that easy. I think Reggie Miller thrown me. Reggie Miller's thrown me.
See, you put Reggie Miller and LeBron James on the same team into a group of Bulls fans. You're just not going to win, are you?
Yeah, but because it was going out on the socials, you get the LeBron stands and all that, don't you?
You do.
That's what I was thinking.
I was surprised it was that close. Okay, so here's mine. And granted, I've had a lot of time to think about it. I put quite a lot of thought into this because it fascinated me. Because it's a bit different to just pick your all-time starting 5, right? You have to actually think about the eras and stuff. So I was going to do it and try not to pick any of your players, but I kind of run out of time. So this was just my team off the bat. Like I said to you, when I was listening to your podcast, I paused your podcast to do it in my head. So when I listened to you, it didn't sway me or anything like that. So I have adjusted it ever so slightly because the eras didn't work when I initially done it. So my team is at point guard, Magic Johnson from the 80s. Shooting guard, Kobe Bryant from the 2010s. Small forward, my favourite non-ball of all time, Grant Hill.
Good call.
From the 90s. Power forward is going to surprise a few people. But you can't deny greatness. I've gone LeBron James. Jordan's the GOAT, right? It's no question. But LeBron James is the greatest player of this generation. That's just something that you cannot deny. At centre, I've gone Shaq, 2000s. Sixth man, I went Kareem, and I went Pop as well for the coach. My second choice coach, although Pat Riley is an awesome shout, I didn't actually think of Pat Riley, to be fair. My second coach choice would have been Steve Kerr. Just because I absolutely love the guy. I love Steve Kerr so much.
But you couldn't have had Steve Kerr.
Of course, paid by the Bulls. Yeah. Even though he wasn't a coach.
we had a few
okay.
Bills.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, of course, because you didn't coach the. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
received the Bulls paycheck and quite a few of them.
yeah, didn't he just? Well earned though, to be fair.
Very much.
But yeah, no, that's an awesome little segment there. To be fair, I enjoyed putting that team together. I want to do one when I get a bit more time. Maybe I'll do one as if I was picking away from yours and I have to pick different players, because like you guys said on your podcast, a lot of players didn't make it. Look, are very, very good, and it's
yeah. There was an incredible list. I mean, I still had like the likes of Kevin Durant, Damian Lillard, Kawhi Leonard, Tim Duncan, players like that on my list that I could have picked from as well. There's so many greats. It's just, but it's about trying to get it to fit in with the eras, and also you've got to counteract what the other person's picking too. You see. Yeah,
of course, and I think you've gone with your gut. Like I know you joked about Matt had LeBron and Reggie Miller, so a lot of Bulls fans probably are not picking him. If you had thought about that route and you had gone for the votes, you would have had Derrick Rose in there, right? He's going to get all the votes.
You can't have Derrick Rose.
Oh God! Of course you can't.
You see?
Ignore me. God, it's getting late, isn't it? I told you what I'm like on no sleep. Jesus Christ. Okay, yeah, ignore that. What an idiot. Okay, another question before we wrap up. Another question I wanted to ask you is something that you asked Joey Spathis on a recent podcast as well. Joey, of course, from CHGO. And I thought it was quite a good question. I wanted to put it to each of you individually. You asked him, what would be your Matt Peck, Joakim Noah moment? As in, if people don't know, what basketball player, if you were to meet, would you completely lose your mind, basically? We'll start with you, Matt.
All right. The easy answer is obviously MJ.
But, okay, so you're not allowed to pick MJ.
Yeah, but obviously, well, that's never going to happen. I've always said my second, or probably, if you took MJ out of it, my favourite ever Bull is Dennis Rodman.
Same.
You know, yeah. I mean, I'd lose it. I wouldn't know what to say to him, and I think he'd just destroy you as well. To be fair, so you know, it'd be a whole whirlwind of experience that you'd be like, well, did that just happen? And yeah, so I'd say Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, that's mine, to be fair. What about you, Neil?
Yeah, well, okay, I probably would have gone Rodman too, but just for argument's sake and to make it a little bit more interesting, I won't say Dennis Rodman, but I'm not going to pick a player. Is that allowed?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's bend the rules, right? You're awesome at that.
Yeah, I know. Let's go Phil Jackson.
Yeah, I like that. Thinking outside the box.
I'd love to sit down and have a conversation with him and talk to some of the characters that he met and was involved with both in Chicago and in LA. I just think he'd be an incredible guy to talk to.
The Zen Master. Yeah, that's a great shout. Did you listen to him on Stacey King's podcast?
I haven't actually got around to it yet. I listened to the Scotty one, but I haven't gone back to the one with Phil yet. But it's on my to-do list.
Yeah, he's one of them people. He's just so calm and he's just got a great tone about him. You just listen to him all day, isn't he? He's one of those people, and he's obviously so knowledgeable as well. Mm-hmm. Stacey asked him about if they were to play the triangle in today's game, how would it work? And Phil said if you had the players that bought into it, you would dominate today's game using that triangle. So that was quite interesting.
Worked in the 90s too, right?
It did, but like he said, you had to have every man on the roster buying into it. You know, everyone was committed to it. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. So, while we're talking of that, I'm sorry to keep you a bit longer, but let's just quickly touch on Scottie Pippen. Obviously, I've listened to your podcast. I know your views, but I think if people haven't listened, Matt and Neill both basically said that it was kind of a Scotty was trying to make himself relevant again, basically, is what you were getting at, right? With all this nonsense.
Yeah, that was my general opinion. Aside from the fact, obviously, it hurts to hear it all been said. It's just, yeah, to me, the fact that he keeps bringing it up, and it always seems to be when he was selling his book, he's trying to sell his digits or whatever it's called, his cannabis now or whatever it is. Just seems as if it's well thought out, shall we say, to get eyes back on Scottie Pippen, because as I also said, although he's loved by Bulls fans, he's had the jersey retired and all that sort of stuff. He's not like a fashionable player, if that makes sense. Everyone knows Michael Jordan, everyone knows Dennis Rodman,
Yeah.
everyone knows about Phil Jackson. It's someone else that he obviously goes at as well. So to me, it was like he's not relevant out of that era anymore, and he's just trying to get himself back into it. Whether I'm right or wrong, I don't know. But
It's
yeah,
about opinions, isn't it, at the end of the day?
Still hurts
Yeah.
either way. So.
Yeah. What about you, Neil? Same thing.
Well, I was slightly less cynical. I mean, for me, which is a big surprise there for anyone listens to our podcast, right? But the way I kind of looked at it, I just felt quite saddened by the whole thing. Was kind of the adjective I kept using. I kind of feel like Pippin feels a little bit lost. He feels a little bit left behind, and his support network that he thought was always going to be a part of his life went off and lived their own lives. And I think Scotty's trying to find somewhere or some way that he can feel that attachment and that being a part of something again. And he's just going about it very much the wrong way. And I just wish Jordan would turn up on his doorstep and say, "Pip, what are you talking about?" Give him a big hug and sort it all out, and they'd all be okay again. But I mean, we all know kind of the way that that Mike tends to operate. He'll just completely stay away from it. He won't get involved in any of it really. And Pippin's having a one-sided argument then, really, which is it's just kind of sad.
Yeah, I think that normally when you only hear one side of the story, you kind of that's all you're hearing, so that's all you're going by. But whereas it just all seems so bitter from Scotty, so instead of people getting behind him, they're turning on him.
Yeah, well, did you see Bulls Kick-Ass put a tweet out yesterday about who's your top 5 all-time Bulls? And usually there would have been MJ, Rodman, Pippen.
For sure.
A lot of them didn't include Pippen anymore. So is whatever he's saying, it's not working in terms of Bulls Nation. You know what I mean?
I think you guys you hit the nail on the head. It as fans of then, they were our heroes growing up, right? And it's pain. It is. It's just painful. Like you guys said on your podcast, in your head, they live next door. They're best of friends. They're around each other's drinking every night or whatever, having a beer together, whatever. So to hear this is just, it's almost like a bit of your childhood just sort of been ripped up.
It's like your mum and dad splitting up, isn't it?
That's a great way of putting it. Yeah, it's a great way of putting it. I put that tweet out, and I know it was all taken out of context. I put it out a bit tongue-in-cheek. It went absolutely crazy. So I did a quick video afterwards, and my actual view, my serious view on it is, as horrible as it is, and as bitter as Scotty is, yes, like you say, he had a book to sell, he had his bourbon to sell, and now he's in this cannabis business. And those timings all kind of marry up perfectly to him coming out publicly. But then, like you said as well, Stacey asked the question, right? So he was kind of set him up to answer it. My view on it is, as painful as it is, I genuinely feel for the guy. He's had a lot going on in his personal life, which has all been very well documented. He lost his son, which nobody should ever have to go through. He then split up with his wife, and we all know how that's going currently. That can't be the first part of that, right? Losing your son. Like, no human being should have to go through that. That just shouldn't be a thing that anyone has to deal with, losing a child, no matter how old they are. I can't imagine how I would be if, heaven forbid, something happened to one of my kids. I can't even imagine what I'd probably end up in a gutter somewhere because I would. So I kind of give him the benefit of the doubt for that alone. And then obviously what happened with his wife, and for those that don't know, she is now reportedly, I don't think it is, I think it's legit, dating Michael Jordan's son Marcus. And I mean, talk about kick a man while he's down. I mean, I don't blame Marcus; she's a stunning woman. But it's just a massive kick for the guy that was already down hard. And listen, I think he's dealt with it terribly. I think a lot of the things he said in public obviously shouldn't have come out. I get he was still bitter from the last dance because he wasn't portrayed great in it. But what did you see the Luke Longley documentary?
Yeah.
Right, so do something like that and get your side of the story in. But don't be so bitter about it. Luke Longley said Michael Jordan wasn't fun to be around, but he went about it in a much better manner, which actually got MJ's respect. And I think Michael Jordan ended up even going on the documentary because of that reason.
Yeah.
But instead of that, Pippen's taken this route, which he's kind of losing the respect of everyone. People idolize him, like you just said. He's in your top 5 balls of all time, without any question of the doubt for what he did on the court. MJ says it. There's no MJ without Scotty. There's no Scotty without MJ. Without either of those two together, they don't win the championships they won. That's not a secret. And for people not to be putting them in their all-time starting 5, that is so damaging to the history of what we grew up with.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's like I said, there's only 4 jerseys retired by Bulls, and Pippen's one of them, and he's losing that legacy, whatever you want to call it now, by being the way he is. And it's, like I also said, Bulls fans aren't going to turn on MJ.
Nah.
So, and probably not even Phil Jackson either, as much as he claims to be, like he's a racist or whatever it was he claimed. But yeah, I think it's more so our generation that are going through it than the modern NBA fan. Do you know what I mean? I think the modern NBA fan probably doesn't really care that much, to be fair. It's hence why he's trying to make himself more relevant, I guess. So, because the modern NBA fan knows who Michael Jordan is.
Yeah. But the irony behind that, and I think we said this on our own pod, Matt, is by Pippen trying to make himself more relevant by doing it in this cynical way, he's actually made himself less relevant. And he's now being omitted from top 5 polls, and he would never have been in the past, regardless of whereabouts you are in your Bulls fandom and what era you're from. Now newer people don't care about Scotty, and older people are turning on him. So it's backfired big time.
Yeah, I think pain that's the only word for it for us and for him probably. And I do feel for the guy, like I say, and it just sucks, man. The Bulls suck at the moment. We couldn't even get in the playoffs, and now you got all this again coming back up once again. So yeah, it sucks. It really does.
I don't enjoy the good times anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Even those are being ripped away from us. Guys, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this, straight up.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, thanks for having us on, Jimmy.
No, thank you. You didn't have to do it, and like I said, I was happy to come onto yours either or. And I feel genuinely legit. Feel happy about where we are now. I did previously from Paris, but obviously, time heals everything, and it wasn't going to be squished overnight. I think because nothing wanted to be forced, and I think enough time's passed now where we can legitimately all move on. And I think that this tonight is a big step to that. So we've had a bit of interaction on Twitter since as well, which has been nice, something we never did before. So thank you guys for coming on and squashing, being happy to get on and just move on and forgetting all the nonsense that happened and move forward. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And myself and Matt, we do our podcast. It's an audio podcast, but we're actually in the process of trying to move along with modern times and get into the video side of things, which I know you're a hell of a lot more comfortable with than we are. This is only our second time on video so far. So who knows, you might be sitting in the hot seat the next time on our podcast instead.
More than happy to do it. 100%. Definitely up for that. 100%. Hayes just beat me to getting you guys on the video. I didn't realise that was your first time.
Yeah, it was an experience. We're not used to it.
Yeah, well, I just, no one is watching or listening as far as I'm concerned. I'm just talking to two people, one person or whoever it is. So, yeah, it just let it go. Just forget about everything else. Probably no one's watching anyway because it's mine. Yeah, thank you guys. I really do appreciate it. And I know you're both busy and stuff, and I know you don't need your sleep, but even so, I've taken up an hour and a half of your time tonight, so I do appreciate it. And yeah, like I say, it's awesome just to bury it once and for all and move on. And I think it's just good for not only the UK community but just Balls Nation as a whole, because it's not good when people are beefing. So
no, as we see with Scotty and Mike.
Exactly that, right?
Yeah. No, appreciate you having us on, and like you say, move forward, don't look back anymore, and that's it. Just
100%. Just guys, shout your handles out quickly across the socials and your Facebook page as well before we sign off.
Yeah, well, my personal one, Matt Seared UK, and Seared UK for everything else basically. You know, you've got Twitter, Instagram, Facebook group, Facebook page, and the website seareduk.com, and then obviously the podcast as well, Seared UK. So sure you'll find it somewhere.
Yeah, and you'll find me with the Seared UK and Neil in front of it, but there's 2 L's, right, Jimmy?
2 L's, yeah. So I sent Neil the link to this Zoom call, and I only put 1 L. So yeah, my bad.
No problem. The amount of people that do it, because I mean, look, it's not normally spelled with 2 L's, right? It's just because it's the Irish thing, you know. But yeah, at Neil Seared UK for me.
The funny thing is, it's happened before, so I concentrated so hard, and I still didn't get it right. So yeah, my attention to detail is terrible.
You're fine.
There you go. Go and check the boys out. Seared UK. Go and check the podcast out as well. It's across all platforms. Yeah, I've actually legit enjoyed listening. I hadn't listened to it until quite recently, and I've legit listened to it, and there's some good segments as well. So yeah, go and check the boys out. Thank you again, guys. And don't know when our next episode's going to be. I'm away next week. Nice little break, so it's probably going to be 2 or 3 weeks away. I've got a guest lined up who's coming on, hopefully. And yeah, until then, guys, go Balls.